very much, Brother Ellison. And as Brother Ellison made mention of the original dedication, the Kingdom Hall that was originally built here, we have for you coming up in the next section of our program some very nice slides which may remind you, some of the older ones, of that Kingdom Hall when it was first built. Just looking at a few scriptural thoughts here, brothers, before we introduce the next part of our discussions for this afternoon. In the book of Hebrews, chapter 3 and verse 4, a scripture which most of us are familiar with, speaking about the building of buildings, material buildings. In verse 4 it says of Hebrews chapter 3, of course every house is constructed by someone, but he that constructed all things is God. And of course we owe Jehovah God everything, don't we, for this beautiful house of worship in which we sit this afternoon. And we appreciate that Jehovah God is really the one who has constructed this Kingdom Hall, this house of worship. And yet the Apostle Paul said in 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 9 that we are privileged to be God's fellow workers. And so obviously, even though we attribute it all to Jehovah God for this Kingdom Hall, certainly it was not built without the efforts of many brothers and sisters. And so we'd like to introduce the next part of our meeting now, and this is discussing the building project itself, how it was done and the things that were involved. We'd like to invite to the platform Brother Bob Johnston, who himself had a great deal to do in this work and has spent many long and tireless hours in the construction project himself, and he's going to tell us about the building project over the last couple of years.
Thanks, Brother Michael. Friends, it's, what can I say, it's now reached the time when the dedication has come, and all of those heady days, we can say, now seem a long time away. They seem to be long gone. But when you see the slides, they'll all come flooding back to you. And you'll see yourselves in many of the slides that are there, and many of the reminders of just what took place and what seems so distant now will come back, and no doubt you'll have many mixed thoughts as you view that. We have a beautiful hall here. I'm sure there's no doubt about that in your minds. I'm sure you would all agree to that. But the beautiful hall that we're now sitting in shows the benefits that come from following the direction of the faithful and the discreet slave and the society that he had at administering his belongings at this time. And that's become evident in this hall by the Kingdom Hall arrangement and how Kingdom Hall should be structured and built. It has a guideline by which the Society recommends we follow. And when we first started out, our hall was not a quick build because it was considered an alteration, and the Society did not have a quick build arrangement for alteration. But we still wanted the Society's guidelines and directions on how we should proceed and what we should do. So we sat down for a set of their plans and those guidelines along with the instructions, and we tried to build the new section of the hall and the back in line with those guidelines and arrangements of things. And aren't we glad that we did so, because the following of those guidelines has led to the beautiful hall which we have now. If I could just mention a few of the things that the Society mentioned. They said that our hall should be delightful to look at. But then it said it should not be ostentatious or grandiose. It should be well ventilated. It should be comfortable. And above all, it should be functional. A place where men of all sorts could feel that they would be at ease and in peace while being instructed in Jehovah's ways. So we followed those guidelines and we used them as our directive in everything that we undertook. And as a result of that, look at the beautiful hall that we have. We didn't imagine that it would look like this. We didn't imagine that you'd be so comfortable. We didn't imagine the carpet would be so luxurious. The blinds, the coordination, the lighting, the sound. And only Jehovah and his organisation, by following those few simple, basic guidelines, have given us what we have today. If we had sat down with individual ideas and individual thoughts of what this hall should have looked like, there is not one of us, with our skills or with our thoughts, man thoughts, could have dreamed up what we have given to us by our Heavenly Father. And I'm sure you'll agree with those sentiments. Well then, David said, one day in your house is worth 1,000 spent elsewhere. Don't you feel that way, brothers, when you sit in our kingdom hall now? That you'd rather be here for just one day than 1,000 out there? Is that how you feel? The one expression in all of the Society's letters on how the hall should be is one that seemed to stay with me through the whole construction, and it said that it should say welcome to anyone approaching it. And I feel it does do that, thanks to the effort that you brothers have put in. Well, the successful completion of this hall, and in fact all of the halls throughout the world, the branch offices, the printing facilities, they all stand as a witness, don't they? As a testimony in themselves that Jehovah is the master worker and that Jehovah himself is the builder of these buildings. As Psalms 127:1 says, and it's echoed in our ears many times during the many discussions we have, that Jehovah God is the builder of the house. And it's to no avail that we work hard, that we have sleepless nights, if Jehovah is not the one doing the constructing. Well, here it stands on the eve of its dedication, moments before its actual physical dedication. And it's here because Jehovah built it. If you were privileged, like I was, to work with Jehovah on this hall, well then you will know that that is true. That Jehovah God built this structure that stands here now. Because when we think of the finances that weren't there to start with, and we just heard last night that this original project figure was targeted and reached before the hall was completed. The building materials that miraculously appeared, how did that happen? But most of all, when I think back upon what has happened, the personal experiences of working with different brothers and sisters can only have one goal, one objective, if Jehovah builds the house, and that is to equip us for the work that we have to do in the new system. That's working with each other and using our hands and our skills and our thoughts to follow the directions that Jehovah God gave us. So when we think of the tabernacle, when we think of the temple, when we think of the ark, we know that Jehovah God gave all the plans to man, down to the finest details, and then supervised its work. Brothers, we're going to have a look at some personal glimpses now of what has been. So we'd like the brothers to come forward now and set up the slide equipment for us. And we'd like to thank Brother Dave for the effort that he has put in putting this together for us so that we can review the work that has gone before. Brother Jet, by way of the next 15 minutes in the concluding comments then on our hall, as we mentioned, we would like you to have looked a little bit deeper past what you saw in the slide. You saw there many, many brothers and sisters working in harmony with one another. You saw there many, many difficult tasks being performed. And yet throughout the whole of that time, the brothers and sisters that were engaged there were working under very difficult circumstances. By the very nature of the building and its location, in that it was the very first one to be constructed inside a closed suburban site, it had its own built-in problems in that movement of material and movement of personnel and trucks in and out, and machinery, particularly machinery, was fraught with danger, and yet our brothers and sisters worked very, very well, showed a lot of common sense and diligence, and no injuries were caused to our brothers through foolishness or things such as that. So for that, the brothers, from our point of view of the Zone Committee, are very, very thankful for the diligence that all of you showed in the way you conducted yourself during that time. When you can think from the time of approval of our hall to the time when the quick build arrived, we had 12 weeks. That was 12 weekends. And then when you take into consideration that in that 12 weekends there was one district assembly, one circuit assembly, one CO's visit, one special talk, and 3 weekends of rain. Do you remember those 3 weekends of rain? The brothers who dug that bank out 3 times remember those 3 weekends of rain. That is the most moved amount of soil on the site. It gets shoveled back, it fell back in, they shoveled it back, and so forth until it was finally retained. So, brothers and sisters, you did very, very well indeed. It was the first hall within the Brisbane City Council area. So the council then was involved in the arrangement of things. That's the Brisbane City Council. But there were no difficulties involved there. Everything went very, very smoothly. We had a bit of a hiccup with our car park in the amount of cars that we were required to place as to those that were first required. So, but apart from that, the council showed a great deal of consideration and cooperation to us, and because of that, we're very thankful for the effort that they put forward to us. You might notice, brothers, that the width of this hall, that the sheeting on the roof, they're all in one length, one continuous length, over 16 metres in section, as is the steel that goes across there. But most of all, brothers, on those slides, what I have down here on my notes is the unseen Kingdom Hall. And the unseen Kingdom Hall was the work that went into the chairs. It wasn't done on the site here, so therefore it was like the Cinderella of the hall, because many of the brothers and sisters went from this place to another place and worked over a full weekend in sewing, gluing, screwing, drilling, cutting, grinding, welding, painting. Not only at the desert, but up in Dalby, where the brothers in Dalby made their machinery, their jigs, their labour. The work on their Kingdom Hall stopped to a large extent in their landscaping while they lent their brothers to us to build the framework for our chairs. So, would you like to say thanks to those brothers? Another unseen section to a large extent was the preparation of food. You all saw it when it was on your spoon and heading for the between the lips to go down where it would do the most good. But prior to it reaching that stage, something had to be done to it. It had to be purchased, it had to be prepared, it had to be cooked, and it had to be presented. And they were fine meals, brothers. There was no one on this site lacked for good, solid nourishment during those weekends. The sandblasting. I don't know if you've ever seen sandblasting or you've ever experienced it. I don't know how brothers can do that sort of thing as a job, but Brother Peter does, Brother Peter Hunter, or did at that time. He sandblasted all the steel work for us, and it goes everywhere. It goes down your shirt, down your mouth, in between your ears, in your ears, and the Sister Gloria can testify too, it covers the whole of your house. And when I mean the whole of the house, I mean the whole of the house. Have you ever sat down on a toilet seat that has little pebbles of black sand on it? Which brings up a point. To say thank you to all the wives that played their part in the building of this Kingdom Hall. Often silently, often alone, while their husbands and family worked away on the site. Thank you very much, sisters. You can't see the wiring, you can see the effect, but there's miles of it. We didn't pay for a lot of it. No, we never stole it. We went and took it out of an old building in town. When I say old, it was only 7 years old, but the world decided they didn't want it anymore. The Jehovah decided it would be just nice for us. So we pulled all the wire out of it. We pulled all those panels, virtually everything from those back seats there, those on the rise, came out of that old building. The toilets, the doors, the panels, the lights, the wiring, the bifold doors, the partitions in the toilet, which are very, very heavy when you carry them down 3 flights of stairs by hand. Those brothers worked for many, many hours on bringing all that material home so that it now stands where it does, looking like new and doing a very serviceable job for $1,600, $30,000 worth of material. So thank you for that also, brothers. The plumbing you can't see, except when you press the button. It's all buried. 200mm and 300mm diameter pipes, length upon length upon length of it. It's buried under the car park, down to the street, right around the hall. It's all there. Little Hauser knows where every little piece of it is, where every joint of it is, each fall on it. Some of them didn't fall too good, but then he went back and he fixed it. And that's what we had to do many times, because many times we didn't really appreciate what we were doing, but because Jehovah wanted it done right, they went back and did it again. And now everything works well, everything functions as it should function, befitting Jehovah. During the period of the construction site, you can imagine the amount of material. I haven't seen Brother Payne here, but along with Brother Ron and that old red truck, we should enshrine it somehow. The trips that were made to the dump, the sand it carried, the dirt it carried, and the landscaping material it carried, the place was kept clean, right, to keep us safe. So, and then to the purchasing all of the items, brothers, you've no idea of what is needed in the Kingdom Hall. If you want something to do, young ones, count how many screws are on each chair that you sit on. Not now, later on. And then multiply it by 300. And then when you think that's a lot of screws that you've purchased, then try screwing them in. We have electric screw guns, they help. You've still got to pick them up, put them in the hole, and screw them in. Our cabinet work, brothers, our front foyer out there, it's beautiful, isn't it? It's been very well done. We wish to thank Brother Jeff for the effort that he's put in there, at the cost to a large extent to his own work in his own factory. So Jeff, with the what we sometimes jokingly call the minister's residence up the back, the work you've done there and out in the foyer and in the cupboard, we thank you for very much. So, thank you, Brother. Brothers, if I've missed you out, it's only because of the time that we have presented to us, but you all know we thank you very much for every effort that you put in. The sleepless nights, the hard work, the planning, the going without, the black thumbnails and other things that you endured. But hasn't it been worth it? Do you think it's been worth it? Now, having said that, brothers, there's only one thing left for us to do with this Kingdom Hall now, and that's to fill it. And that is why we started, wasn't it, in the very beginning? That is why we worked along. That's why Jehovah allowed us to be used in the privilege of building this fine structure that we have here. To fill it, to be a place where people can come and be instructed. So brothers, let's work very, very hard in our field service. The work to be done is great. The work is acute. The place is ready. The hall is ready. And we're ready. So with Jehovah's blessing and with his help, may we continue to be co-workers with our Heavenly Father by presenting to him a work that is suitable. So, brothers and sisters, we'd now like to hand back to our chairman. Thank you very much for the privilege that you gave each and every one of us to work along with you in this service. And we have 2 more to go. So as we see the new hall dedicated in this zone, I'm sure they'll have the privilege of enjoying the presentation that we have today. Thank you, brothers. Thank you, brothers.
Friends, by your applause, I'm sure you enjoyed that slide presentation. It was very nicely done for us, wasn't it? And if you did enjoy that, then we'd encourage you to come along again this evening at 7 p.m. We have a full 1 hour of video presentation of that building construction work. I'm sure you'll enjoy that even more than the slides that we saw this afternoon. Just before we continue with our afternoon program, we'd like to just mention some well wishes for this afternoon. I was very pleasantly surprised last night with a long-distance telephone call from Brother Eddie and Sister Rachel Possumay. I'm sure your local brothers remember them. They rang from their missionary assignment. They're in the Gilbert Islands, of course. They asked to be remembered to everyone. They send their love and they express that their thoughts and their prayers are with us during our dedication today. So that's very nice, isn't it? Well, we've now reached the part of our program where we would like to dedicate this Kingdom Hall to the service of Jehovah and to his worship. To do that, though, we'd like to sing a song first to introduce this section of our meeting. So if you'd like to stand again, please, and open your songbooks to song number 118. We'll firstly sing a song together here to introduce this section. And the song is based on the scripture of Malachi 3 and verse 10, where Jehovah promises to bless us, doesn't he? And it's entitled Supporting God's House.